Morning, guys. For the next little project that I have in store for you is a practice in perspective drawing and also a practice in architectural drawing. And what I want you to understand about this is that first off, you don't head out and start trying to draw full structural buildings and things like that, unless you've already practiced some at it, or some people are just naturals at it, I guess. But what I do to practice when I really just don't have any ideas of anything else to do is I just draw little pieces of a building, little sections of a building, mainly to get an idea of things like assemblage and how the different assemblages kind of react to one another, how the light and shadow reacts to that, and basically just kind of practicing the little components actually builds into something much more involved later on. The way that I do this is, I just go and I take a picture of a segment of a building, like this is a corner of my house. Now this, of course, more or less serves as inspiration. I do make some modifications as I draw this. Okay, some of those modifications may include, such as the corner line. I really kept this more of a 2-point perspective. When you look at a photograph like this, you're really looking at it in 3-point perspective. You can see how these verticals are kind of angled kind of to the side here. And that's just basically the way that they come out when you take the picture from the angle that I'm shooting it at. So it's really more or less a 3-point perspective view. But I just turned it into a 2-point perspective, and you can look and see you really can't tell much of a difference. But doing it in 2-point perspective just keeps everything in a better, I guess, a better order for me in order to draw it. But I draw each component just pretty much as you see it, and again, it's not measured exactly. It is really more or less an inspiration than anything else. But you see I have the up at the top the asphalt shingles that kind of overlap this drip edge. Okay, and this is actually this is a wooden 2x1 or 1x2 drip edge with the aluminum or the metal drip edge that actually hangs over it in reality, but you really can't tell anything other than being wood in this picture. Then of course I have the fascia material, soffit underneath, and then a subfascia down here with even some brick that I've added some color to sort of accent the drawing. A couple other things I use to accent the drawing are these corners that meet. I just kind of made them imperfect, as if, like a piece of wood would be, even though in the photograph you see there's actually a metal flange that wraps around this corner, kind of protecting that corner. But I wanted to kind of bring it out and make it look a little bit more actual real life, so I put this texturing in here to kind of show the splits and the unevenness of the wood where it joins together. I did the same down here on the subfascia. You probably can't tell quite as much. I also threw a nail in here, a nail with a shadow of the nail, and that just kind of gives it a little bit more of a realistic look to it. The rest of it is mainly just working in light and shadow, because the sunlight was coming from this direction here. It lit up the front very well. Okay, and then of course under each like the lip of the drip edge here, I put some shadow. Of course you see the underneath of that, the surface is shadow, and then of course it actually casts a shadow onto the fascia, so I put that in there as well. But both the fascia and the drip edge are very bright because the light hits those. Although in the photograph you see that there's a tree in the background, and you can see the light coming through the tree. I could have chose to replicate that, but I thought it would be kind of hard to convey the idea that there was a tree there in the drawing, so I left it out as if there were no tree there at all and just made it all lit up very well. Okay, now on the other side here, you can see where I made it a little bit darker because the sun, again, coming this way, which kind of puts this in a little bit of a shadow. It's not like a really dark shadow. There is some atmospheric reflection on these surfaces, so you can see how it is a little bit shaded, but kind of lightly shaded. This drip edge up here is a little bit darker shaded because it does have the asphalt shingles that sort of overlap that. Underneath, of course, the fascia, we have the kind of the depth of the fascia. The fascia is probably about a 1/2 inch thick material, 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch thick. So I put that material thickness and kind of represented that down here and put it into a bit of a dark shade, kind of equal to this right up here. So because the light is not hitting that very well. Underneath is the soffit. Okay, it's a bigger surface. It will get some reflection from the ground and from other surrounding objects, so it's not quite as dark as, say, like underneath of these edges. And of course, you do need some kind of a separation between those. If I were to do these the same shaded color, you really wouldn't see that image pop out at you. But by putting the edge surface of this fascia in a darker shade and then the soffit in a lighter shade, kind of allows that the texture, the volume, to kind of pop out at you. And then of course I've come down to the bottom and placed a subfascia as is in the photograph, and again played with light on that. A little bit darker right here around the edges where the two materials meet. And then, of course, kind of lightening up a little bit because some light does hit this piece of subfascia. But also there is some shadow created by the overhanging of the eave itself. And then, of course, down on the bricks. Same thing, I just added a little bit of color. I probably could add just a little bit more shading around the top of the bricks to make that a little bit darker at the top. And then maybe a little bit lighter down toward the bottom. But I think the effect that it produces is a very good one. So, you know, there we go. That's the explanation of what I've drawn here. So that's what I challenge you to do. And I'm going to take you a little bit deeper into this here in just a second and kind of show you how I got it started. But your challenge is to go out and find just a piece of your house, a door. It can be indoor, it can be outdoor, it could be a corner. It could be a corner of a door or window. You know, it could be, you know, you probably want something that has some distinguishable depth value to it. Instead of doing like a flat surface, you might want to do something that has, you know, different distances involved, you know. But anyway, I challenge you to go out and do this with a piece of maybe your house and just draw that, and you know, encourage you to continue doing that so that you can experiment with the different light values and the shadow and everything else, and start to develop the ability to create, you know, architectural you know, representations, artistic representations, or renderings we call them. Okay, so if you have any questions, again, just leave them down in the or send them to me through Schoology. I'll be glad to answer them, or you can leave them down below this video. It'll be fine as well. But anyway, stay tuned for the next half of this video where I'll kind of show you how I got started on doing this and kind of making this sort of three-dimensional. All right, so let's look at how I got started on this project. And, you know, just paper, pencil, and a ruler. And really, you don't even need a ruler, but just something with a straight edge, because I'm not measuring anything in here. There are some opportunities where you can measure stuff, and more or less trying to get equal distribution of parts, but you know, I really didn't do that on this one. What I did is I kind of observed the photograph, and I just decided, you know, what lines am I going to establish first? So I looked at the corners. These corners, these vertical edges are actually the closest to me. In reality, they're going to be the closest to me. So that's what I started with. Started with those vertical edges and then drew backwards from there. So I chose a spot on my paper using a technique called the golden rule or principles of thirds. And same with this photo. Of course, when I took the photo, you know, just naturally I favored this right third of the paper for this image. And so I did the same thing as I'm drawing. I just chose the right hand third and started drawing. So again, going in more or less 2-point perspective. Now, of course, I don't have any vanishing points. Okay, the vanishing points are actually way off of the paper in here, so I really have to just assume those vanishing points. I have to keep them in mind and just sort of assume those. But again, 2-point perspective, I wanted to keep my verticals straight up and down. So this line is first, and I just kind of choose a distance to draw that. I don't measure it or anything. Okay, and then I go in here, and this line is next. Okay, and it's going to be inset from the other line. So I'm going to come over here to the left of it just a little bit. And what I'm looking at in the photographs, I'm just looking at the value of the line itself, not the roof, not the drip edge or anything like that, but just the value of that piece of geometry, which is simply a line. Okay, so this one is offset to the side a little bit, and it's a little bit longer. Okay, so I'm going to do, you know, a little bit longer, something like that, maybe longer. Okay, all right, and then of course up underneath I have my soffit material, which this is my next vertical line, and it's way offset from here. So I'm going to come sort of to the bottom of the page and establish that subfascia line. Okay, and it doesn't matter how long it is. I think I'm going to probably make this a little longer. Okay, because those are about the same types of material. This will probably end up being a little shorter, to be honest with you. Okay, and then just slightly inset from that are the bricks. Okay, so here's the drip edge, fascia, soffit material under here, subfascia, and then the bricks. All right, so I've established those vertical lines. Now I'm going to establish the horizontals. Horizontals kind of disappear into their vanishing points. Okay, you might have to kind of place it in here to sort of get an idea of the angle. Doesn't have to be the exact angle. Okay, so I'm going to draw this line back over this way. I'm going to keep this line underneath at the same angle as that one. And this is going to be kind of establishing the fascia material itself, I think. Is that what I'm going to do? No, I'm not. I need to establish the bottom line of the drip edge. So I'm just kind of getting my angles kind of lined up. They're not going to be perfect. All right, and gotta have a little space here for the bottom of that drip edge. Okay, so the bottom of that drip edge is actually going to be recessed a little bit from this corner. Okay, and that's actually where this fascia material will start. Okay, and let's get us a good angle on the bottom of the fascia. Okay, and then the next line will be kind of the volume of that fascia, that 1/4 to 1/2 inch thick material. And you see right here, I sort of offset it just a little bit because, you know, there's going to be a thickness right there. Okay, so fascia, soffit, and then of course the soffit's not going to come out to be exactly the same size. This is probably about an 18 inch, probably not quite 18 inches, but it's about an 18 inch overhang. This is going to come out to be more of maybe a 12 inch overhang, because I'm kind of squeezing everything together on this piece of paper. Okay, so this line, these two lines represent that subfascia. Okay, and then I've got the underneath of that subfascia, the bottom edge, the thickness of the material. So I want to represent that probably about as thick as I did this one. Okay, so it kind of insets a little bit from that. Okay, and then we can redo the bricks there. All right, so that's everything going off to the left. Next, I'll kind of do everything off to the right. This will be a little bit easier. I've already determined points and things like that when drawing the other side. So here, you're gonna converge just a little bit more. This line is going to be about the same angle as this one, but just a very slight sharpening of that angle to get that converging vertical. And again, I'm going to represent the underside of that drip edge material, just like so, which means I'll have to kind of adapt right here as well, and I'll have to move my vertical line for that subfascia a little bit, okay, which is no big deal. Okay, and now for the bottom line of the fascia itself, and then the thickness of the material. Okay. That probably doesn't come out perfect, but that's okay. It's okay that it doesn't. And this little piece I'm drawing here just kind of reminds me of what's going on right there. All right, so soffit underneath. Now we need to do the other subfascia. And then the underneath of that. Okay, and I'll have to make an adaptation here as well. Okay, so that really takes care of all of my line work. From here, all I'm going to do is start, again, working with the light values. In order to get these different light values and shadow values, it's just a matter, you know, you can use the same pencil, or maybe you have a collection of pencils that do different things. You don't have to have these. You can really just use a regular number 2 pencil. But I have this one, which has a little bit harder lead on it. This one has a softer lead. The softer lead is going to give me a darker shading. And then, of course, this is a mechanical pencil, which is also the same type of lead as this one. Now, you can do it all with the same type of lead. The way you change your values of things is just by the pressure and the layers of strokes that you put on one on top of the other. Okay, so up under here where it's shaded a bit darker, you know, I'm going to put some heavier strokes in here, like so, and I'm not going to shade out the whole thing. I'm just going to kind of show you how to do it. So I'm pressing in a little bit harder, and I'm putting more layers on top of it. Under here, well, let's say this right here is going to be, light is going to be hitting this. So I'm not really going to shade that much at all. I will shade this side over here, which isn't going to be quite as dark as that. So in order to create that value, I'm just going to treat my pencil a little bit more gently and get a lighter value. Now, as you can see, this does get a little tedious because, you know, I'm working in kind of a big picture, and then I'm just really making very small strokes. Okay, so that gets that lighter value. And the same thing under here, I'll go with that same darkness, the same value under there, and keeping everything, you know, kind of representative of one another. Now under here is going to be even darker. It's not going to be as dark as this. It's going to be lighter, which means I'm going to have to be very careful. And as I'm doing that, I may have to go back and make some readjustments. Those readjustments might be to make these even darker, this a little bit lighter, or even using an eraser down here to kind of pick up some of the lead. If I have to make it too dark, I can just take an eraser and kind of, you know, daub it around and pick up some of the lead that I placed down to make it a little bit lighter. Okay, so those are the things that you make adjustments with. And, you know, that could be something as simple as using the eraser on the end of your pencil to do this, or even to erase things completely. Or you can use one of those cube erasers, which I don't think I have one available right now. I don't. I've been mainly using the edge of my pencil for doing all of this. So, oh, and also my electric eraser. So those are some things that you would use to make some adjustments to your values, your lighting values, and your shadow values, and things like that. And just kind of carry on from there. You know, as you can see in my picture, how this are all very light. This and this are a little bit darker, and then up underneath is even darker. Okay, and just kind of, I'll post a picture of this on the website with the video so that you can see and you can study the picture and see, kind of get an idea of the different pencil strokes that I used. All right, well, that gets you started, okay, and that gets you on your way. All right, from here, just kind of continue on. You know, practice with it. If you have to redo it, then just redo it. It's not going to hurt. I mean, it might take a little bit more time, but, you know, I mean, with effort and with time, you get better and better. So once you get to a point and you want to share and get credit for this online, then you can snap a photo and submit it to Schoology. And, of course, I encourage everyone to do this because this is one of the things that's going to help you with developing that architectural rendering ability. But do this activity and then take a picture and upload it to Schoology and send it as part of that assignment, part of this assignment. Okay, so hopefully I'll be able to see some of your drawings. Good luck on that, and stay safe, stay clean, wash your hands, all that kind of good stuff, and we will see you around.